Hello, hello, hello. My story, very normal people. Today we have a new guest in our show. His name is Zachariah Hagen. So he's from US. Welcome, Zachariah, in our show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Zachariah, can you tell us something about yourself before we start with the interview?
Yeah, so I am an editor and an author living in the United States. I've lived all over as people know before in Carolina, New Mexico, Minnesota, and I am excited to be moving back to the place where I was born, Colorado, this summer.
Okay. So you mentioned a few states, but yeah, it was a little bit problem with can you repeat it, please? So where you
Yeah,
have
so
been?
I've lived all over. I've lived in North Carolina, New Mexico, Minnesota, and I am moving back home to Colorado this summer. So I'm really excited about that.
Mm. So, what is your favorite, let's say, state for you?
My my favorite state. I really enjoyed living in Florida. I lived there when I was a teenager.
Mhm.
But I think my favorite state is definitely Colorado. You've got mountains and a lot of just really fantastic things there. The weather's great. You still have seasons. So I'm excited to move back.
So, what about your writing? Which of these places, how say it, inspire you more or put you to work? What is one, let's say, a little bit more preferable? Let's say.
Yeah. Um, well, the characters, a lot of the setting takes place in the mountains and the forest.
Mhm.
So there's been a lot of inspiration, I'd say, that I pulled from places like Estes Park and the Rocky Mountain National Forest in Colorado. But I mean, there's also desert that they spend some time in. So there's um, some inspiration from New Mexico in there. Um, yeah, I think that most of the books
Mhm.
take a lot of time in the mountains and in the plains. So in a way, it can mimic parts of the United States, but it's also an entirely different world.
Mhm.
So,
So for me that I live in a flat country, there is no room for me.
oh, there's some flat areas of Luxterra. They just don't spend a whole lot of time there.
So do you have something about the sea, beaches, this kind of stuff, or just mountains and snow and cold and tough things?
No, they do spend some time in at the beach as well. A major setting for them is a beach house um, on the coast. So there's definitely some of that as well.
Mm,
Um, that ends up kind of being a place where they wait for things to happen.
okay. So can you tell us a little bit, just a little bit, how can you give a short, let's say, kind of review of the what you write in your book, in the last book, actually.
Yeah. So I mean, any of your listeners would remember from last time the Eternity's Well ends with finding the waters and drinking from it. So the second book, Eternity's Mirror, picks up where that leaves off. Um, they've Elior, Opal, and Nyx have drunk the water from the well, and then they're thrust into a new adventure when the dark circle of sorcerers of Jin takes over and unites the world under a banner of peace, but of course it's not really real, and they have to find a way to continue their quest. They have a Elior has his brother to rescue, and Nyx and Opal have their countries to redeem from the political takeover.
Mm. So let's come out a little bit from the book and we'll get in again. So, what is your hobby?
Oh, my hobby. I really enjoy hiking, which is one reason I'm excited to move back to Colorado. Um, I also enjoy video games. I used to say that writing was my hobby, but of course now I do that for a living.
So, of course, that's why you write about mountains.
Mhm.
So you are in the book there. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so if you can, if you can find some, let's say, in the characters, let's say in the characters of your personage that you have in the book, what will be
hmm
some, let's say, the contrast that they have in one person? Let's say,
Um, I'm not sure I understand the question. Could
okay, I'll
you
say it again. Sorry,
rephrase
my
it a little
English maybe
bit?
it's not perfect. So, in the sense that, okay, the contrast in the character of your personage that he has in his, for example, he's very calm, but also he just explode in one moment. So this kind of stuff. The if you
Okay,
or
so
it's like always like the same rhythm in his character. So
right. So Elior is the main character, and I think that he has developing confidence. So there are moments where he's very sure of himself and very um, kind of on top of things.
mhm,
And there are moments where he really questions whether things are working, where his faith is shaken. And it's this oscillation between believing in what he's doing and having to take a step back and reevaluate himself.
mhm. So do you have any event that is happening or happened in the world that you, let's say, you try to get something from that event to write in, to put in your book, or
Yeah, some personal experiences
mhm,
definitely made it in. And I continue to draw from my life as writers do. I mean, the advice is always to write what you know.
mhm,
So, um, I lost a dear friend of mine, um, and the circumstances of that loss definitely impacted how I wrote the first book, especially. Um, and we go through problems in life, like we encounter problems in fiction, and so um, my personal life and the life I had as a teacher have definitely impacted some of the things that I've written about.
okay. So for you, it's better to teach or to write.
I love both. If I could have a job where I got to teach and write, that would be my ideal. Maybe someday I'll be a professor of creative writing. Who knows?
Mhm. So what do you do in a normal day? Let's say today is Tuesday.
Yeah. So
I'm
these are
asking
good.
this question because you are in the car now, right? Too busy doing something.
Yeah. During a normal day, I probably would have been at my workstation doing this, but of course we're getting ready to move, so we had a little bit of an errand that I had to run. I was like, oh, I still have an interview, so I jumped on when we got to our destination from the parking lot. But a normal day, typically, I wake up, I have breakfast, I get usually try to get a workout in,
Mm,
um, shower, and then I sit down and I write. I try to write anywhere between 2,000 to 5,000 words every day.
okay.
I rarely get to that 5,000 mark, but it's kind of that's my lofty goal. And shooting high allows me to get to something that propels me forward.
Mhm,
Um, Spend time with my family. I play with my dog. I am currently working on my master's, so
mhm,
I'll take some time in the early afternoon to do some homework, and just cleaning, making sure that the house stays nice because I don't like living in a mess.
mhm.
Um, yeah, pretty typical day on Sabbath. We go to worship. So,
Okay.
no, pretty quiet.
Hmm. So let's say, who is your best friend?
Uh, my wife is my best friend.
Okay. So do you have kids?
I don't have kids yet. No.
Okay. 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 So what are your future, let's say the future plans, the ones that are, let's say, in 3 months and the ones that are in 3 years and maybe more?
Yeah. So right now I am about 3/4 of the way done with the third installment in Eternal Chronicles, Eternity's Refuge. So that'll be out later this year.
Mhm.
And I'm also writing an Aladdin retelling. And that will, I don't know when that one will be out because I'm going to try to find another publisher for that one. Because right now I'm the publishing house that I own is publishing the Eternal Chronicles, but I think I'd like to find a larger publisher for Aisha's Secret, the title of the Aladdin retelling that I'm working on.
Mhm.
And I have plenty of other ideas as well that will kind of just depend on where those stories lie, I guess,
Mhm.
when I finish them.
Have you ever thought to write two books at the same time? Is it possible?
Yeah. I don't think it's impossible. I think that it requires a lot of discipline.
Mm.
Um, so for me right now, it's working because one of them is a project for school
Mhm.
because I'm studying creative writing, and one of them is my work.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if I will necessarily continuously write two books at a time because one of them is always going to feel more important to finish than the other because my goal for the day is about 4,000 words for Eternity's Refuge, and it's only about 1,000 a week for um, for Aisha's Secret because it's going at a pace to school rather than how fast I usually try to write.
Mm. So what is the message that you try to convey to the reader in the last book?
Um, it varies on the book, but I think that especially with Eternity's Mirror, the one that came out this last month, the message is perseverance. Things get difficult, things get hard, but we keep going anyway.
Okay. And if you will have a message, uh, apart from the book now, something else that you will say to our audience?
Yeah, I think that I would love to tell the audience that every story has a place and read people's stories, tell your own, and that makes life so much more worth living to just be involved in every story you can.
Thank you very much, Zechariah, and good luck for the rest